Hey Nick, we need a tagline for the podcast.
No.
Real life opinions. Movie reviews told by fans and not critics.
Hello out there in Radio Land. It's Jeff and Corey coming back at you with another real life opinion.
Welcome. Jeff, how's your day?
I'm the boss at work this week, so that's stressful.
Okay.
Yeah. When I'm the most qualified candidate, there's issues.
Yeah.
There's
I reserve judgment. I haven't worked with you, so. For all of us who joined us on our last episode, we dealt with Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, which was never actually called that, but I just totally said that.
Well, they retroly renamed it Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Okay.
But the original name was always Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Just like Star Wars was Star Wars, not A New Hope.
Yeah.
So.
And it wasn't episode 4. Like it became A New Hope, and then it became A New Hope episode 4.
Yeah. George Lucas and his 50,000 rewrites and reshoots and read this and read that.
It's funny. Like George Lucas has his fingerprints all over these Indiana Jones
all
movies.
All over it.
And we're just going to rewrite history here. We're just going to rewrite history there, right? Life is like a hurricane.
Such a great show. Anyways, that was off topic. So we are now episode 2 will be dealing with Indiana Jones 2. So we'll be talking about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Now, Corey, I don't know if you know this or not, because I know we were talking before we started the podcast that this is probably your least seen of all the Indiana Jones movies. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did you know it was a prequel?
I think I did, actually. I'm pretty sure I did. I remember hearing that once. Again, my intention was never really hard on this movie, but I'm pretty sure I did hear that.
It's funny. This one's probably the one I've seen the most out of all of them. It's not necessarily my favorite, but my son went through a phase where he went as Mala Ram for Halloween one year.
That's pretty fantastic, actually.
He had the bleeding heart in his hand and everything.
That's amazing.
I went as Indy, he went as Mala Ram. It was best Halloween costume in the world. So their thought process behind making it a prequel was they didn't want Nazis. They wanted some other ethnicity. That's why we ended up in India. They originally wanted to do a Chinese antagonist, but
well, they kind of did at the intro, right?
Well, they did in the intro, and I want to talk about this intro. Now, it's a stark contrast to Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? We can agree on that.
Oh yeah.
Raiders starts off, and he's going through these old traps. He's got these old guys in the back, or these. Not old guys, haggard-looking help, right?
Yeah, we discussed their unattractiveness in the first episode.
In this one, it starts off with a scene where everyone's ultra-attractive, right? Like, they've got, Willie, who we will get into in depth.
Yes.
Willie...
At least she was a pretty face.
Yeah, she was a pretty face. I wonder how she got the job.
Yeah.
She starts out in this beautiful sequin dress and comes out of this beautiful musical intro. So what do you
damn catchy song at that. I don't know why, but I can't help but to tap my feet to that song. So
what do you think of the stark contrast to the opening of Raiders?
Well, what I really liked about it is in Raiders, yeah, he was in peril, but it was adventure peril, whereas the start of this one, he gets poisoned by his Chinese counterpart there.
Yeah, he's making a diamond
transaction. For what was it for?
He gave them an idol in exchange for diamonds.
Yeah, and so all of a sudden, turns out, oh, by the way, we poisoned you. Ha ha ha!
And the evil laughter.
Yeah.
You'll have to give us. We'll have to give you the antidote, Dr. Jones. It's James Bond villain at its highest.
Oh, totally. Did you ever play the Lego game?
Oh,
it was probably my favorite level. Was that opening one? So.
Nick, when he was little, loved the Lego games. I never played the Lego games, but Nick had all of them. And Indiana Jones was...
Lego Star Wars kicked ass, but anyway.
So we start off with this James Bond-esque opening, which I always thought was interesting. We talked about a little bit in the first review about how Indiana Jones was more down on his luck. Not down on his luck, but more... He didn't get by through skill. He got through by determination, right?
Yes.
Now, this one, we start off with, this suave Indiana Jones.
I know, the white tux. Like, ooh.
Yeah. And I always thought, like, it was almost betrayal of the character to begin with. Like, you saw elements that he could be that suave, but, comparative to what he was in the first one, I just thought that's an interesting way to go. Like, why would you go from this guy who kept getting the crap beat out of him, doesn't even win in the end? Like, he just gets lucky in the end of Raiders. Really?
Yes, we already established the movie could have happened without him.
And this one, he knocks the gong down. One of my favorite scenes. It's a contrast to the ball rolling. They wanted to knock the gong down, and he runs behind it.
Yeah.
And the guns are shooting off. They're bouncing off of it. I love it. And then it ends up in a car chase.
Yeah,
now,
can't go wrong with the car chase.
What did you think of the car chase through Chinatown? Well, it wasn't Chinatown. I guess it was a town in China. Oh.
Was that racist? Anyway. Anyway.
We apologize. We deeply apologize.
I don't. Anyway. No, as far as car chases go, again, keeping with what you said, it felt very Bond. And I think the suit helped because it made him look Bondish. Mm-hmm. And yeah, honestly, the whole intro of this movie, I mean, it was Steven Spielberg in a nutshell, but it had a Bond feeling to it. And that's, I think, what made it so cool, is it wasn't just like some scene in some middle of nowhere scene. It was in the town, in a fancy club, and it just,
It very much changed the tone. Like, this is the only movie, I think, that truly changes the tone of the Indiana Jones movies. Like, and that opening scene accentuates it. Did you notice the Club Obi-Wan scene the first couple times you watched this?
Not the first couple times, no, honestly. I don't know how I missed it because they don't hide it. But as soon as they were walking out of the club, and you see right above on the little marquee or whatever it was, it said Club Obi-Wan. And I'm like, haha, it's funny because George Lucas produced it.
We forgot to mention that we missed the R2-D2 hieroglyphics when he was in the snake pit, when he was doing the temple light in Raiders.
Okay.
There was an R2-D2 hieroglyphic. You blink and you miss it.
Huh.
So George Lucas has his paws all over this.
Well, and him and Spielberg always played off each other. Look at Poltergeist. There was actually Star Wars posters all over the boys' room there.
Really?
Which it was Steven Spielberg's movie. And then look at...
I remember famously in E.T., where there's a little boy with the Yoda, and E.T.'s just like, hey!
And then if you think of the end of Phantom Menace, where there's E.T.'s in Senate there.
I love it. So, where do you fall on the is E.T. a Jedi debate?
Nah, he's just an alien. They were just having fun.
But he uses the Force. How do you think he lifts off the bike?
That's true. And then he makes, like, when he's building his phone there, it's all in the air, and
E.T.'s a Jedi.
Yeah, his own little finger lightsaber.
Which, man, we talk a lot of Star Wars for us not intending on doing Star Wars.
I mean, it's like Kevin Bacon. Everything in the movies comes back to Star Wars. So I think we said that in the first one too, actually. So.
No, I think we said everything comes back to Marvel in the first one.
Right.
But the one and only C-3PO makes an appearance when they take off on the plane here.
Yeah, that's right. Mr. Anthony Daniels himself. And he pretty well sounds just like C-3PO. I
Oh,
know
yeah,
he sounds like that to begin with. Like, I'm not saying he had to change his voice really, but I swear it was on purpose that he made himself sound like C-3PO.
I think George Lucas is just kind of like, hey, you're putting 3PO in here so people remember about Star Wars, okay? And he's going to sound just like him. Could you imagine living being Anthony Daniels? That's your voice all the time.
Interesting fact is that I heard he was by far the most difficult person on the set, shy maybe Alec Guinness. So
really, you know, he had the most throwaway role in that whole series.
but he's him and Troy Baker, which I don't know if it was him through all, but either way, were in all of the movies.
Well, I feel sorry for Troy Baker. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. He didn't last long, unfortunately, so I don't think he would have been in the prequels, but he might have been. But he,
technology had moved to the point where they didn't need him anymore.
pretty much, yeah. So
They didn't need Anthony Daniels anymore either by the prequels.
I think
to be
by
honest.
the prequels, he was just a voice actor. He wasn't in the suit.
I think in Phantom Menace, he might have still been in the suit because there's a lot of practical effects in there.
Yeah.
So, do we want to talk about? I love the scene where it's just like, okay, I'm gone, Lao Chi. See you later. See you in hell. And he closes the door.
And it's like
Lao
Lao
Chi
Chi-
Airlines.
Lao She. That's what
Lao
Lao
Chi.
She Airlines. It's like, this, is, boys and girls, is what we like to call foreshadowing.
There's the infamous raft scene.
Yeah. So we got the movie in the background, and I just wanted to say, oh, look, Kate Capshaw screaming. Weird. Anyways, so yeah, the raft scene. One of the most impressive because of how practical the effects were. It wasn't, there's no CGI. Obviously, there was dummies involved, but no CGI.
No, there was dummies in that.
No, man, Harrison Ford's like, I got this.
Yeah, I'm going to jump out of a raft in the air, and we are going to land safely on the snow.
Apparently, there's no rocks in that there mountain because that raft should have been torn to shreds. But we established long ago that Indiana Jones is not within the scope of what we call reality. So.
Well, and we talked briefly about how, well, maybe we didn't discuss about how some of the stuff in the Indiana Jones movies is just so ridiculous. I can't remember if we touched on that last time or not.
I think we did, whether we did it on the podcast or outside the podcast, but I remember talking like that. So, yeah.
For those of you who are, I guess, listening to the podcast, we talk a lot before we get the podcast rolling. And sometimes some of the discussion ends up on the podcast. Sometimes some of the discussion doesn't end up on the podcast.
Sometimes discussion that has nothing to do with the podcast ends up on the podcast. Weird.
We try to keep it on the rails here.
I don't.
So, clearly they all would have died, right?
Yes.
Like, everybody shits on the, Indy in the refrigerator and an atomic explosion from Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
No, the raft scene is far more ridiculous.
Yeah. The fridge scene is semi-believable, so.
Well, as you were saying, right? What was the old joke?
Yeah, like the back in the day when those fridges were made, they made a joke. I don't know if it was an official product tagline, but they said our fridges could withstand a nuclear blast. So I think that's where that all came from. So
it was probably his line with so much lead back then, like which was
probably
for your food, eh?
Yeah.
Well, just put your food inside of a lead-lined refrigerator with some.
You didn't need lights in your refrigerator. You opened the door and it was glowing green.
They land down and they find, I still can't get over that. Like, it's totally believable that they're sliding down this mountainside and then just happen onto the creek.
Well,
now,
obviously.
And they end up into this village which has lost their children. And they beg poor Indy, please save our children.
Yes.
Which, of course, they're speaking Hindu, I do believe. And Indiana Jones, he's a professor. He's got to know this stuff, right? the convenient the convenient plot hole. It's like, oh yeah, he's a college professor. He knows all the languages in the world, right?
Yeah. That's how you get away with things.
Oh yeah.
But speaking of their trip to India here, or not to India, well, yeah, I guess to India.
But they're in India already.
Yeah, the introduction of Short Round.
Oh God.
We love Short Round.
We do love Short Round. Do we love that they called him Short Round?
Of course not. Completely offensive, and that's what I loved about it. So.
You know, it was the 30s, even though it was made in the 80s. You could call your Asian sidekick Short Round.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can't take especially an 80s movie or Blazing Saddles, which was like 76. But either way,
God,
you
Blazing
can't
Saddles.
Yeah, you can't hold old movies to the same accountability as new movies, obviously. So,
we should have a discussion about how our past has been eroding. Like, there's this revisionist history going on.
yeah, it's instead of learning from the past, we're erasing the past, and that's a whole other conversation.
That is a whole other situation. But as much as we love Short Round, and him and Willie have like the most obnoxious voices in the world, do they not?
I mean, I think that was the point. He was the annoying little sidekick, and she was the
annoying.
Well, she was more the annoying sidekick, and he was the comic relief. And either way, yes, they were both annoying.
In my opinion, they work better than they have any business working. Like, her being this distressed diva,
literally,
yeah, is like, should be super annoying. I hate the small kid sidekick trope. I hate it, but I mean, it works in this movie for me because I will.
That's a Spielberg thing, though, right? So.
And Spielberg was the master at it.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, let's look at it. Was probably a year later that The Goonies came out, and
Short Round was Dada, I do believe.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
This movie, you could see the fingerprints of this movie all over The Goonies.
Totally,
like the setting. The
this
feel of the
Oregon.
Goonies. We should take a quick Google to see the time comparison between those two.
I'm pretty sure it's either later that year or the next year. So,
as we showed with our last podcast, we are not prone to getting the dates wrong.
It's because we're human, damn it.
Okay, so this movie was 84. The Goonies was 1985.
There you go, 1 year later. So, and they were both summer blockbusters. So,
and did not make even remotely close to the money that this movie made. Goonies was still a success at 125 million.
Well, Goonies was a new, I wouldn't say franchise because they never made another one, but Indiana Jones now, going after the success of Raiders of the Lost Ark and the success of Harrison Ford in both this and Star Wars, it had a following. It's like saying Guardians of the Galaxy would have done the same dollar figures if there was no Avengers. I don't think they would have. They would have done good for sure, but they would not have done as great.
Guardians of the Galaxy is top 5 movie for me. So
it's absolutely fantastic. It's one of the best Marvel products right now.
I don't think it's one of the best Marvel movies. I think it's one of the best movie franchises. Just by itself, it is that fun. This is the problem with movies nowadays. Guardians of the Galaxy is a fun star epic. Now, all of the other space operas now are too serious.
Yeah.
Think of another movie in the last 15 years where we had fun in space.
That wasn't Marvel.
That wasn't Marvel.
Yeah, I can't.
Like, did we have fun in Rise of Skywalker?
Did anybody have fun in Rise of Skywalker? I don't think Mark Hamill had fun in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. Well, the dusting off the shoulder. I just realized that the podcast can't see me dusting off my shoulder.
Insert visual here.
But I think we should take a small break here, Corey. What do you think?
I think that's good. We will be back.
And we're back.
Welcome.
So, there was an ongoing theme about Indiana Jones and the snakes, right?
Yes.
Just terrified of them. They leave the jungle. Conveniently enough, 2 full-size elephants and a kid-size elephant show around.
Of course.
Isn't that convenient?
Obviously.
We get to see more of Willie's diva side. They're sleeping underneath the stars. And it's animal after animal after animal that she runs across. She's trying to get like her clothing hung up. You know, she thinks the elephant's going after her.
Yeah, she got more and more frustrated with the elephant, which then led to the turn of irony in it.
Indiana Jones getting a snake tossed at him. And in one of the rare moments in this movie, you know, you don't see him. He's not the John McClane human like he was in Raiders of the Lost Ark, but in a rare moment, you see the terrified look when she tosses the snake that she thinks is an elephant trunk at him. And it's a soft, small touch to just remind you that this character is human again.
And petrified of snakes.
And petrified of snakes. Now, they finally make their way off to Pancok Palace, which I know leads to your favorite scene of the movie, Corey.
I freaking love the dinner scene. They're sitting there with all those elites in that palace and the Maharaja. There's the young kid who's like their king or whatever it is. And it comes time to eat. And their cuisine consisted of a pregnant snake. So when they cut it open, all the babies squirm out.
The dude double fisting the snakes. He was like,
Yeah.
ah! Rah, 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 rah.
Kevin Smith would be proud.
Kevin Smith.
Eh,
This is... Kevin Smith obviously has, like, his movies have the DNA of these movies.
well,
in them.
obviously. Except for the following and the money and the director and the...
Yeah, in his own words, except these movies are good, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you know, Kevin Smith, if you're listening, we love you. You're a great director. Even when you're being a bad one, we still love you. Okay? Keep doing what you're doing, buddy. So, should we have some chilled monkey brains for supper tonight?
Absolutely. I don't between the snake, the scooping out of those giant ass beetles, and then the freaking chilled monkey brains. By far, my best favorite part in the movie. I don't know why.
Corey, would you like some potato chips?
I would love some.
No? Okay. I was worried that you had bugs for lunch that you wouldn't want to.
Oh, yeah,
Wait, I set you up.
yeah, gone.
I was just like, you know, we'd rehearse this. You dropped
Damn.
the ball, Corey. You let me down.
Damn. That's all I have to say. Damn.
I love Willie with the snake double fisters. Just like, oh, are you not hungry as he's eating this cockroach? She's like, oh no.
I had bugs for lunch. So they convene into their rooms.
Oh, and it's a very, once again, the contrast between this movie and Raiders. Like, him chasing after Marion is very, very, very different than what goes on here. Like, the courtship in this scene, I don't like it.
It already felt forced to begin with, but then to drag out a scene like longer than 5 minutes of them waiting for each other to go to each other's room was unnecessary. Like, there are certain things that it's okay if it ends up on the cutting room floor. And that was one of them.
This movie's over 2 hours long. Now, that's not that uncommon in this day and age, but like back then, hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
Movies.
Heck, there was some hour and 20-some minute movies out there. So.
Yeah. And you know what? Some of those movies are great. Land Before Time, I think, is barely over an hour.
Yeah.
I think Land Before Time.
A lot
like
of those animated
70...
ones, yeah. Like Disney. Like, I think Snow White was only 70-some minutes long.
Really?
So.
Iconic movie of all time. So, you know, it still works in this movie, I think, but you know, the chemistry isn't totally flat on arrival between Indy and Willie. You know, and why is Willie in this movie again?
I don't know if I should say it. That could be slander. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be slander. Famously dating the director. But apparently they didn't get together till after the movie. And they're still happily
officially
married. Right? Like, you know, as much as I heard she's a sweetheart on the stage, yeah, for her acting chops that great. Like, especially when it's like, Indy, here I am. Oh, come over here. Oh, be gentle with me. And it's like, oh, man, this is...
She was brought in for her lungs, whether it be on the outside or on the inside. And...
Yeah, like you said in the opening sequence, that's an earworm. You know? And she did a great job singing that song.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of ear bleeding. There is a lot of screaming in this movie. And, like, it's a darker movie. It's not as funny, or as venturous, I should say, not funny. So, like, I get why there's the extra screaming.
I don't think she was Kim Basinger Batman 89 bad, but she was up there. So.
You know, Kim Basinger at least looked in place in Batman. This movie's so dark and brooding, and then you get to see her, like, every scene she's in, it's, like, brighter than everything else.
Yeah.
It's almost distracting.
Well, you said it best. She was a diva. That's what she was.
Mm-hmm. So we finally get, you know, I love Indy and the whip battle in his bedroom.
Yeah. Guy randomly sneaks up behind him to try and strangle him, turns into a brawl, and then pulls out the whip, gets it around the guy's neck, and then swings it up to the ceiling fan, and the guy just twirls around, strangled to death.
Do you think they could still do that scene nowadays? Because, like, I know it's not a racist scene, but it's like, ooh, that's very suicidal looking. And that's one of those faux pas in today's society. Like, yeah, do we really want to show a guy hanging from a ceiling?
It was the 13th reason why.
Yeah. 13th reason why. So, this was the first PG-13 movie.
Really?
It was the 13th reason why it became a PG-13 movie. They created the PG-13 rating specifically for this movie. It was so dark, but they didn't want to give it a restricted rating, right? I do believe Indy says shit at some point. He doesn't drop the F-bomb. But, you know, there's some terrifying stuff in here.
There really, I mean, everything with the priest there was...
Oh, Mala Ram?
Yeah. Mala...
Yeah.
Him.
Yeah, him. You know who...
No,
if you know, you know.
He was a pretty dark character. Like, a lot of times now, it seems in movies, whenever there's a super dark character... They have to give him a sense of humor so as not to, I guess, frighten people. But this one, he's just a dark-ass dude.
I love that we do get back to a little bit of the old trapdoor or, like, death trap things that was prevalent in the first one, right? Like, this is the scene after the bedroom. He goes in there, you know, and he's looking for a trapdoor anywhere in Willie's room. And he finally finds the one where he's got to push the statue back. And he goes into there. You know, that's vintage Indiana Jones. And it's kind of the first time in this movie that you really see the vintage Indiana Jones come back.
Yeah, because really, Indiana Jones was all about the traps. I mean, it was accented at the very beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark and every movie since. So the fact that it wasn't introduced till this is at least, I'd say, 2/3 into the movie.
It was halfway into the movie before it was really introduced, right? Like, you know, he started off, I always think of, like, the trilogy. I feel like Crystal Skull is almost kind of off on its own. So, of the original trilogy, it starts off with, like, the elaborate traps that he's got to get past and everything like that, and then it ends with the most elaborate the traps and the original trilogy.
Yeah.
To finally get the Holy Grail, right?
That was a fantastic scene. I can't wait to talk about that movie next week.
Oh, the quality difference between that movie and this movie is kind of crazy.
Well, I think by the time Last Crusade come out, they were sitting on bank, and they finally used it to their advantage. Like, this movie alone was like a $20-some million budget, and it made $333 million.
That's insane.
For 1985 or 84, sorry, is insane.
I do believe Raiders, for a time being, was the highest grossing movie of all time. Not this one, but the original Raiders for a short period of time. I can't remember what knocked it off. I want to say Back to the Future did, but I don't know that 100%.
Yeah, I just remember I started tracking that stuff when Titanic took number one. And it stayed number one for years until, James Cameron bounced it off with Avatar.
Well, there's three people with consistently with the highest grossing movie of all time. James Cameron, Steven Spielberg, and George Lucas.
Yeah, go figure, hey?
Those three they dominate the highest grossing movie of all time.
I would love to see a James Cameron written, Steven Spielberg directed movie.
Not to throw shade on someone that's infinitely more talented than me, but Spielberg has lost his touch.
But that's why I said getting the writing of Cameron, who, I mean, Cameron is as eccentric as they come now. If you ever follow him now, he's one crazy dude, but I love the guy. Like, he has made some of my favorite movies of all time. So, and Titanic is not one of those.
Hold me, Rose.
Yeah.
Hold me.
I mean, he made sequels worth watching. He made Aliens, which nobody thought you could top Ridley Scott.
How could Alien was such a
classic?
Yeah. How do you improve upon that? Terminator 2.
Terminator 2, greatest action movie of all time, and I will fight anybody who says otherwise.
I don't really feel like fighting you right now. I would still argue the original Raiders is a better action movie than Terminator 2. I would. There's better comedy. Well, you know what? Raiders isn't even my favorite movie in this series, so maybe not. But way
to lose your own argument.
Yeah. So we get back to the old Dungeons and Traps. Indy, of course, he gets the spikes from the ceiling. It reminded me very much of All Roads Back to Star Wars, of the trash compactor scene in New Hope.
Yes.
When I see the spikes come down, but they don't have the spikes in New Hope, but and then the ceilings coming down. It was very much the trash compactor scene for me. Redo.
Anytime I think of walls closing in, whether it be ceiling or walls, I will either think of A New Hope or I will think of Army of Darkness.
Why can't I think of the walls coming in Army of Darkness?
When he gets thrown in the pit.
Oh, yeah! When he gets thrown in the...
Yeah.
We got to do Army of Darkness.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
we'll do that after Dial of Destiny.
Should we do Evil
Dead?
I've never seen the original.
They're amazing, but what's weird is Evil Dead 2 was more of a remake of one than it was a sequel, even though it was still Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell. Because in the first movie, it's him and his girlfriend and another couple going to the cabin and shit happening. In the second movie, it's just him and his girlfriend going to the cabin and stuff happening, and then it unleashes the evil. And it ends with a cliffhanger that leads directly into Army of Darkness. You can watch that as one movie.
Mm-hmm.
So
I've seen Evil Dead 2 and I've seen Army of Darkness.
Yeah, there's no real need to watch Evil Dead 1, with the exception of A, it's an incredible classic movie. B, it does deal more with the chanting being on that record, which if you've watched Evil Dead Rise yet, the new one, there's an allusion to that too. So
I haven't seen any of the new Evil Dead. I tried getting into Ash versus the Evil Dead.
It was all right.
it was a little. Bruce Campbell's beyond that role now.
Yeah. No,
I love the novelty of seeing him back in that role, but he's too old for it now.
Did you ever watch the movie My Name is Bruce?
Yes.
That was fantastic.
Another one where I don't remember it anymore, but I did love My Name is Bruce.
Yeah. Anyway.
But back to the spikes and everything like that. You know, the first movie had snakes. This movie had bugs. You know, Willie's got to put her hand in there. And the scene where Indiana Jones, he's just like, the spike's coming down on his face. And he's just like, you have to hit the stitch. We are going to die.
All I heard in that was Han Solo. I don't know why, but that's totally what I thought of. So.
I love it. I heard they use real snakes or real bugs.
Totally.
So she's got to stick her hand in there and just hit this switch and gets covered in bugs. Like, oh.
And again, let's not forget, her character's a diva.
Yeah, so. Like, you know, she never gets away from that diva. Even through the character arc of the movie, she's always so prissy, right? Saves the day. Of course, Willie comes in screaming, like, gets the death trap going again.
Yeah.
We get the classic, come on, and the hat grab. The classic Indiana Jones hat grab.
I mean, they did that in Crystal Skull, too, at the very end. So...
I don't remember the hat grab in Crystal Skull. We're going to have to... that's a rewatch. That's like...
Yeah, well... Yeah. Yeah, so they get to this temple then, like through all those trap doors and whatnot. They get to this temple where this weird sort of ceremony, I guess. Yeah, ceremony, I guess is the word to use, but it's happening with this cultish group led by this cultish leader.
And they were talking about the thuggy cult at the dinner table with the chilled monkey brains.
Yeah.
So, you know, and the village, they talk about the evil cult coming back, stealing their magic stones, stealing the children, and we finally get to see that, right?
Yeah, when they get there, all the children are slaves there, so...
And they've got the 3 magic stones up on the skull head there.
Yeah.
And then we get to my son's favorite scene in almost any movie in history. Malaram comes out. He's got the frickin' cool skull with the horns on his head. He's got the robe going on. This guy's the full package for evil bad guy. Goes in there. The guy gets locked in the cage and rips the heart out.
I mean, not even really rips. He circles his hand, and all of a sudden his hand is just able to penetrate his skin without tearing the skin, might I add. Well, grab the guy's heart, pull it out. It's still beating. They drop the dude into some fire, and then all of a sudden the heart catches on fire. Like
the look on the dude's face when the heart is just like he looks down at his chest,
and there's nothing. Yeah, like
looks back at the heart, looks back at the chest, looks back at the heart, and like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah,
dropping him into the lava. Pure 80s
cheese.
Cheese was the term I was trying to enunciate.
Enunciate? Big word.
Much too big for my life. I should say the little words. I should stop chasing waterfalls, stick to the streams, you know, when I'm looking for words. Love it. Love the heart gets bursting into flames. Love it. It's like, oh, the lava's what killed you, not the heart getting ripped out of your chest.
Have you ever watched From Dusk Till Dawn?
Oh, yes.
So in that movie, there's this really, really, really big dude that becomes a vampire, and Fred Williamson is this one guy in it, and he's like talk about how he survived Nam and he was all tough, and so this big giant vampire is like killing everyone in his path there. Through brute strength, is like facing him down, and so he walks up to him and he reaches into the big guy's chest and pulls out his heart, and the guy is still standing there, and so they look down, they see a pencil, and they stab the heart, and the guy falls dead, even though the heart's no longer attached to his body. But that's what I totally think of. Well, I should say the other way around, because that movie was 96. But still, every time I watch From Dusk Till Dawn, I think of this movie. So
that scene was ripped right from Temple of Doom.
Totally.
Oh.
And we all know Tarantino is a movie eluder.
Oh, yes. He, if there ever was a classic movie auteur, Tarantino was it. Now, do you like the tired old mind control trope that they do here with Indiana Jones? They capture them, they watch this ceremony, and then they force Indy to eat this black ooze. And he's mind controlled. I've never liked that trope in movies.
Well, it kind of goes back to what I was saying. Everybody talks about the phoniness of Crystal Skull, and yet so many things in all three of the other movies were totally beyond belief.
This one especially.
Raiders, it wasn't. I mean, I don't want to say beyond belief, because there's obviously people who very much still hold that belief structure.
Well, the Nazis were a very believable bad guy, obviously. And a lot of the stuff that goes on in Raiders was actually, not so bad right up until the ending. The only truly, sure, the scepter beating down.
I mean, how they made the lights by moving the mirrors, they did that. That's what they did. Yeah. So,
that's a little bit balanced in reality. But this one, they threw that out. They threw the reality out in this one.
And then maybe, just maybe, that could be why, I don't regard this movie as my favorite, or at all. This is, out of the four movies, this is my last place movie. You don't think it's realistic that
they have a trapdoor that I guess has, swirling lava underneath of it that they can use at any time?
It's probably the most realistic thing about this movie.
Yeah. Now, the metal that they put people in a cage and they drop it into the metal. Now, you guys said Terminator 2 was your favorite movie. So what happens to metal in lava?
Yeah. Humorously, Terminator 2, again, favorite movie. Love it to pieces. I have a tattoo, the whole 9 yards. And yet, my least favorite part about Terminator 2 is when Arnold goes to die, spoiler, and they drop him in the chain into the lava, and the metal melts. No, he melts, but the chain is fine.
I've never noticed that before. Yeah. That doesn't. So this indestructible killing machine, is melting to death.
But the chain is
probably galvanized chain.
I mean, there's probably a good reason to it. I thought that was the part that always made me laugh the most. And then, just kind of watching here, going back to the part we were talking about how the mind control was so cheesy. What did it take to get rid of mind control? Put a torch in their face.
I'm just going to burn you. Oh, this magical mind control that has you doing all of my bidding. At
least in the Avengers, when they were under Loki's scepter, blow to the head got rid of it, because mind control, if you reset the mind, type thing. I mean, that in itself was a bit of a, but again, then you find out later that it's the Mind Stone. And
do we want to call mind control lazy
writing? Second place to time travel.
Oh, but time travel can. Man, the Avengers is just ripe with lazy writing.
Oh, yeah. That's why everybody hated Endgame. It's funny, because Infinity War is probably the best movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, arguably, and I'm not trying to start an argument, but at the same token, Endgame is one of the least favorite, next to the movies that followed.
I would disagree. Endgame... That final 20 minutes of that movie.
I mean, that was fan service, is what that was. Yeah. So.
But I think it's about time we take another break here, Corey.
Yeah, it's a long one today, boys and girls.
We'll be back in a little bit.
See you later.
And we're back.
Anyway, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for your patience so far. This is a bit longer than the first one, but we'll try and keep them under an hour either way as we go.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how we do.
Yeah,
we like to ramble.
Yeah, a little bit.
So, Indy's finally off of the evil spell of the black ooze. and we're
Because
fine.
he got fire in his face.
It doesn't even make any sense, does it? It gets. I don't understand how that would stop it. Like, could he have guessed? Why didn't kicking him in the shin if it's pain?
Yeah.
But I digress. We get the epic standoff. Very 80-ish, you know. These children are uprising against the evil adults. They're throwing rocks. Oh, and Indy stands there in the epic hero pose and punches the guard out in the face. Like it's there's 80s written all over this movie. It's very much a product of its time.
Oh, totally.
I'm a big fan of the cart scene.
Oh, the cart scene was like, honestly, like that was a ride from a theme park waiting to happen. Right there.
Yeah,
so
you could almost. I bet you could take shots from there, and maybe they did take shots from it, where you're going along the rail and it's first person. I can almost guarantee somebody put that right into the Indiana Jones ride.
Not to mention, again, the Lego Indiana Jones game, fun part of the level.
I once again have not watched my son play that, but I don't think that actually sounds like so much fun. We should bust it out after this. We'll fire up the old Wii and we'll play some Lego Indiana Jones.
Fun fact, in the Star Wars original trilogy, like if you bought that as like just the original trilogy there, you could not download, but purchase with coins, so you don't have to pay for it, but with your coins you collect, you could purchase Indiana Jones as a playable character.
Really?
Yeah. He was useless. He had like he had his gun and he had his whip, and they sucked as a weapon. But it was more the whole that they had him. So
the cart scene is pure joy. Like, he's using the shovel to change the lanes. He's hitting stuff overhead.
I would have loved, because I mean, I would have been 5 years old when this movie came out. I would have loved to see this movie on the big screen just for that scene.
Oh,
alone.
that scene would have been epic in the theaters. Yeah, throw a second, like
the surround sound, like IMAX if you could, like that.
IMAX at that time wouldn't have been
a thing.
I don't even know. I'd have to Google it, but I don't even know if it was invented yet.
I don't think so.
And it definitely wasn't used for films at that time. Like, not films like this. It was like you'd go to Space and Science Center.
like the nature documentary type thing.
Yeah, like who wants to see a fucking bird getting into a flower, getting the nectar out on IMAX? No, I want to see Indiana Jones riding a cart.
Yeah, I remember I watched. Man, everything does lead to Star Wars or Marvel. I remember watching Force Awakens in IMAX, row 3, in the middle of the thing.
Your eyes must have been burning.
Oh my
so close.
In 3D. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking up at the movie, and it's like the only thing that's in my field of vision. I can't see around the screen. I can't see below the screen. I can't see above the screen. I can just see the screen. And being in 3D, I literally felt I was in that movie. It was fantastic, albeit painful on the neck.
So we finish off the carts. I love the cheesy feet on fire. You know, the smoke's coming off the shoes. Like, oh, the brakes are gone.
Yeah.
The brakes are gone. Because, of course, the brakes are gone.
Quick, we need a cliche.
Yelling out for water. Water, water, because his feet are on fire. And then the water overhead bursts. It's like, water, water.
Weird.
We rush on out, and then we make it to another favorite part of this movie that I think there's, in my opinion, there's 3 iconic scenes in this movie. The raft, the heart out of the chest, and then the bridge scene.
Yes. 100% agree.
Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, we finally get that sword fight that we were promised in Raiders.
I honestly think that's the only reason they threw that scene in there, because it's like we were robbed out of it in Raiders, and they took the lazy reason out, which they had a reason we discussed. But this one, it looked like it was going to be the same thing, a bunch of guys with swords and just him, and you expect him to show up the pistol, and he goes to grab for the pistol, and it's not there.
It's a good thing Harrison Ford wasn't sick that day. I think, like, if you had to put those two against one another, which one's a better scene?
Probably Raiders, because it was classic. Like, it's still talked about to this day, whereas that scene is just kind of a throwaway scene in this movie.
I think people forget that scene even exists until you're watching it again, like, oh yeah, we finally get that sword fight. It's like, yeah, that was fun, but it wasn't as funny.
Yeah. And all because of an accident. Or, I guess, an improv, I should say.
Well, more of an illness?
Yeah. Illness-related improv?
So, some of the best movies are happy accidents.
Yes.
We make it to the bridge. Now, I find my disbelief is totally suspended, Corey, when he yells out the short round's on the thing, and he's holding up the sword to the bridge, right? And he yells out in Mandarin something, and short round's, oh yeah, he's. So what did he say?
I don't remember, but you see Indy wrap his arm around a rope. He yells something to short round wraps himself around a rope, and all of a sudden Willie's like, What's going on? What's going on? Are you serious right now? And so she wraps herself around the rope, and then
none of the bad guys.
Yeah.
None of the bad guys have figured this out. Like, why are all the good guys wrapping ropes around their hands? What is going on here? What is he going to do? And he screams out, no, stop. Like, dude, he mailed this thing straight to you. Like, the telegraph that he's going to cut the rope. I think they spend 3 minutes building up him cutting the rope. Like,
yeah, he's holding that sword there. Meanwhile, somebody's knit a sweater, and somebody's played 18 holes of golf.
There's someone at his back, right? Thank God Willie told him that twice.
Yeah. Behind you. Yep. Indy, there's someone back. Yeah, I heard you the first time, woman. Jesus.
Those are the same 7 people that were there earlier.
Yeah. Oh, she was annoying. Anyway.
she was easy on the eyes.
Yeah.
And screwing the director.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do. Bills got to be paid, right?
Yeah.
So we finally get the bridge cut, right? To the shock and dismay of the bad guys.
Right.
How could this have happened? I love the bodies flying everywhere. What do you think of the alligators?
Alligators are down there just living their best life. One of them's doing fucking circles in the water, and they're totally what alligators would do when they're attacking meat. So.
Oh, yeah. Dead bodies everywhere. I'm so happy.
And then, it ends off. It's a very Disney-esque ending when the bad guy finally meets his demise going down.
I love how he burns his hands on the stone, but yet when Indy catches it, it's totally cool.
Yeah.
Like, he does the chant, the stone glows, Malaram grabs it, burns his hands, and then he's got that. The special effects as he's falling off that cliff, they're on point with the face melting in Raiders.
Yeah, pretty much. They another movie that I watched later on, as it came out in about 93, I think, was The Lion King, and the ending movie where Scar gets dropped down the cliff and the hyenas are waiting for him, and in the shadows you see them all pounce on him. So I was reminded of the ending of this movie when I saw that in The Lion King.
But the hyenas weren't like frolicking.
No, they weren't happy. They were pissed.
As you were saying, the happy Disney ending, the children are back to the village. He's rescued this sacred rock, and everything's hunky-dory.
Yeah. The end. How did they get back home? Oh.
Yeah. A little bit of bondage play going on there right before the end with the whip around Willie.
Yeah. Brings her closer for a kiss, and I'm
like, dude, in 2 years' time, you're going to be trying to get with Marion again, so like, You just knock it off with Willie, okay? Like, does not need to happen. So we made it through.
Come back in Last Crusade. She comes back in Crystal Skull.
But this one was a prequel to Raiders. This happened.
Right.
This happened before.
We discussed that. Yeah, that's my fault.
This happens in 1937, and I think
Raiders was like 41. I think.
When did World War II happen?
39 to 45.
Okay, so like, yeah, this obviously was a couple years before.
Yeah.
Fun fact: you know why they made it a prequel? Did we talk about that? Because they didn't want Nazis again.
Oh yeah, I don't know if we talked about it on mic or not. But...
We talked about how it was a prequel, but we didn't talk about why it was a prequel.
Yeah, it's funny. They didn't want Nazis, so they did this.
And then
every movie afterward was all something to do with Nazis.
Yeah, well, or Russian Nazis. Like
they were still Nazis.
They
were more commies than Nazis, but they were still
commies. Were
were bad.
Commies were the Nazis of the 50s.
Yeah. And then Dial of Destiny being a time travel movie. Yep, that happened.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Is that
Dial of Destiny? So
lazy writing,
right? But honestly, I'll take the worst movie in the world for the last one, just to know that Harrison Ford has finally found peace with that character. And I don't know what happens. Obviously, the movie hasn't come out yet, but he was happy to say.
You know more than me that there's time travel.
He was happy to say that it was going to be his last Indiana Jones movie, and you know what? Good for him. Salute. Great send off. I can't wait for that movie. So,
well, final thoughts of this one. We should probably wrap it up, Corey.
I think so.
Was this worth another watch? This one?
Yeah. It's fun. It's got fun scenes. Overall, I just still don't like this movie.
It's not my favorite Indiana Jones. It's probably the one plagued with, the one with the second most problems, I think. But for me, the positives outweigh the negatives in this one. And this one holds a special place for me. But next week, we're going to do The Last Crusade, which I think is both our top one. Is it not?
Absolutely. I mean, what made Last Crusade so great was Sean Connery, was everything. Like the bad guys, everybody played an integral part to make the movie awesome. It wasn't just Indiana Jones. And like in this movie, yes, there was other guys.
There's some stuff to pick apart in that, and we'll get to that. I would almost argue that that Willie is a better character than, I can only remember her as Fraulein.
Yeah, Fraulein. Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll get to that in another one. We'll see you all next week.
Thanks for listening. Hopefully you made it this long through. If not, I can't say I blame you.
You got to encourage them.
Oh, right. I mean, come back for more. Yeah. No, honestly, we're having...
Subscribe and like.
Yeah.
On.
When you're on Spotify, look for that little bell button right below the episode. And
is there a bell button?
There's a bell button, and that'll follow, and you get notifications when new ones come out. We want to hear from you. You can send us messages. My Instagram page under Real Life Opinion is definitely a thing. My Facebook page under Real Life Opinions, plural, is a thing. Reach out to me. What movie do you want us to do? Let us know. I've had 2 requests now, and I've fulfilled both of them. So... maybe it was 3 requests, but actually, anyways, so I want to hear from you guys, so send me a message. Yeah, thanks for listening.
Keep a stick on the ice. Is that it?